What is Azure? Right. So Azure is a Microsoft cloud platform where we can go and provision or spin up the resources on demand basis. So now when we talk about on demand basis means what? So when we talk about the traditional infra, which is generally termed as our on-prem environment, what we do, so let's say IT team is this. Okay, when an IT team is requesting for a server, right? For a server, or maybe a component of a server, or maybe a load balancing equipment, or maybe a firewall, or maybe a storage capacity. Any request they have that will go to the from IT, that will go to the procurement, central procurement team. Now, why IT is requesting? IT is requesting because on the floor, users are demanding that we need more storage, or we need load balancing service, or we need the VM to spin up the resources, or a physical box of server to spin up the resources. So they are requesting to the IT. Once the IT gets the approval, IT will raise the request to the procurement. Now, when the users have raised the request, when it comes to IT and IT gets the approval, it can take from 1 to 2 weeks approx. 1 to 2 weeks. Then IT is raising a procurement request, service request to the central procurement team. Procurement team will go back to the vendor. Vendor will go back to the OEM, and OEM will share the configuration and the pricing to the vendor. It will come to the procurement, and then it will come to the IT. And the IT will share the configuration to the team that blah blah requirement has come, and we are raising a purchase order to the OEM. Now, this process takes 3 to 30 days. 3 to 30 days. This 1 to 2 weeks went ahead. Apart from this, 3 to 30 days to get back with the pricing, right? Generally, when vendor gets the request, let's say, for example, I'm a vendor. I got a request today. I'll go back to the OEM. OEM can take today's time, tomorrow's time, or maybe 1 week lead time also, and come back to me. Once they are coming back, I'll give to the client stating that this is the pricing for the requested bill of material. Then once the pricing gets negotiated and approved, but so once IT says yes, we need to procure this, procurement will go back to the vendor stating that the we need to finalize the pricing. So the negotiation can take 1 to 2 weeks again. Once the negotiation happens, the vendor will issue the procurement will issue a PO to the vendor, vendor will issue PO to the OEM, and OEM will share the bill of material dispatched. And dispatch again can take 1 week to 4 weeks, or 1 week to 6 weeks, depending upon the bill of material. It will come to the procurement, it will come to the IT, it will get deployed, installed, configured, which can take again more 1 week. So this generally takes time of 4 to 12 weeks. 4 to 12 weeks of complete process, depending upon the size or the equipment what we have requested. It can take, so sorry, 1 week to 12 weeks. Generally, it takes 4 weeks to 12 weeks the complete cycle, right? So, which is a time consuming process. Now, in today's modern era, when we want to spin up a VM on the immediate basis, or a storage on the immediate basis, why should we wait for this longer duration? Now, when we talk about the physical equipment, when organizations are buying their physical equipments, they are leveraging for the next 5 years, or for the next 10 years of that equipment capacity. And accordingly, they are finalizing with their needs on. That's the reason we have different segment of the products, different models of the products. Now, instead, in the cloud, what we can do, we can log into our Azure portal, and we have two types of request here. We have CSP or we have ESD, Enterprise Service Agreement. So we can have CSP licensing or enterprise licensing. Now, enterprise licensing will always go through channel. Right? Customer cannot buy directly from the Microsoft. It will go through the channel, through the partner, and then to the OEM. It's an offline mode, or it is equal to volume licensing option. And the CSP model, again, there are two mechanisms. Customer can go and buy directly from the cloud, Microsoft, or again, they can go with the partner model also. They can go to the partner, request for pricing, partner will share the pricing, and the services will be provisioned in the next 24 hours. So when we talk about Azure, so in Azure, we have a lot of services. There are more than 170 plus services in any cloud platform, right? So it is a cloud platform of Microsoft where we can go and provision the services on demand basis, and we can reduce the lead time of this on-prem traditional method. Now, only not that, we can also shrink our investment expenses also, or investment funds also. We don't need to buy anything here. We are basically renting in the cloud. So we are not investing anything upfront. Right? That concept we'll study in some time. So when we go to Azure, so let me log into the Azure portal. Right now, when we log into the Azure portal, this is the homepage like what we get. So these are my recent resource accesses. That's the reason it is showing and when I had accessed it. Right. So now here we can go to favorite. If we have added anything in the favorite, we'll be able to see here. We have some navigation links where we can go to dashboard, we can go to all resources, resource groups, subscription. So what are these components we'll understand? And we can have the mobile apps also available for the Azure portal. Now these mobile apps will have certain limitation. We would not have full-fledged environment supported on the mobile apps. Now here we have some migration tool information, Azure services, find an Azure expert, recent Azure updates, quick start center, technical documentation. So if we jump to technical documentation and Azure services, so this is the technical documentation for Azure where we can find a lot of documentation related to our services. Now here on the left hand side, we have separate categories. What category of support I need, right? I need DevOps related support, database related support, containers related support, or information security related, networking related, storage related, VDI related, compute related. So if I navigate to compute, you can see in my compute category, there are more than 20 services. So we have around 20 services available in the compute category. We have app service, we have Azure Compute Fleet, right, which is in previous stage, container instances, cycle cloud, dedicated host, spot virtual machines, Azure Quantum, right, Kubernetes service, right, functions, a lot of things are available here. And if we go to the directory of services, we have this directory of services where we can go and browse how many services are available or what kind of services are available. And we can have information related to that services for the product part or the pricing part. So for example, if I want to see what will be the pricing for my Azure, let's say identity, if I want to learn more about identity, so Microsoft Azure AD, right? So we have the formal Azure AD, which is now renamed as Entra AD. So we have Entra AD, we have Active Directory, Azure Active Directory B2C. Now we have Entra Domain Services, Entra External ID, Entra Verified ID. So a lot of components are available as part of identity. We have components related to integration. So if I go to my Azure Active Directory, right? So this is my Azure Active Directory. Now here it is not showing any pricing, right? But it has a pricing. So if I go to the product, now why it doesn't show the pricing? Because by default, when you buy any Azure service, it comes with a free plan. So we can see we have the pricing. So if I navigate to the pricing, and here we have, so this my pricing is going in. You can monitor that to any model. Okay, so we have Microsoft Entra ID Plan 1, Plan 2, and the Suite. Right? So formally they were known as Azure Active Directories. Now, apart from this, we have a free plan, right? We have a free plan which is available with most of the Azure AD dependent services. So we have this is controlled by Microsoft. These are also controlled by Microsoft, all three. Whereas the Microsoft Entra Domain Services is a full-fledged on-prem equivalent Active Directory, but still it is managed underlying by Microsoft. So this supports multi-factor authentication, unlimited SSO request for any SaaS applications or self-service password reset, and we can manage users and groups in the cloud. So, and we can sync all your on-premise environment with the Microsoft Entra ID. So this all features are part of the Entra ID free plan also. And apart from that, when we go, then what is included in the paid plan? Right. So in the paid plan, we have the Entra ID where we can see the apart from the what is included in the paid plan. We have conditional access, we have rollback, we have advanced group management, like we can have dynamic group management, we can have naming policies, we can have SharePoint limited access, session lifetime management. So a lot of options are available as part of the Azure AD plans also. So this is how we can analyze what is the product available or the service available, what is the price of it, and we can categorize it. Let's say if I want to see the networking category, I want to jump to the networking category. I can directly jump to the networking category. For example, we have application gateway, Azure Bastion, DDoS protection, Express Route, Azure Firewall, Azure DNS, Azure Route Server, CDN, WAF, front door, etc. Lot of Azure components we have as part of the networking category. So I can directly jump to the networking category. Or if I want to navigate to VDI, I can directly jump to VDI where we have different kind of pricings available. So when I go to my Azure virtual desktop, which is part of the VDI solution, and if I navigate to pricing, right? So if I go back and go to the product, if I am jumping to the product, so it is taking me to the product. Now here I can get a lot of information on the product, and it will also help me with the resources to the documentation. And we can have FAQs. If I navigate to pricing, I can see the Azure pricing. Now this has taken me to the pricing page. So here, when we jump to pricing table, that is showing what kind of pricing you have. I can select for a specific region in a specific currency format. I can see based on the monthly or hour pricing. I can see now, if I talk about the Azure Virtual Desktop, right? So it is saying bring your own license for Windows 11 or for Windows 10, right? Or pay as you go or a reserved instance on the Azure infrastructure, right? We have for app streaming services for Azure Local, right? So we have different categories defined in each product, and accordingly the pricing is highlighted here. Now let's go back to the Azure portal. So this is my Azure portal. So if we start with the understanding of the topics, what are covered as part of the Azure, right? So when we talk about the Azure, right? So we are talking about the cloud computing fundamentals first. Then, as part of the Azure, what services are available? We'll talk about that. Now, what is cloud computing? When we talk about the cloud computing, so the cloud computing is basically using the resources with the help of internet on our machine or on any device, which are actually hosted in somebody else's data center. Right? Basically using the resources over the internet on any device, right? That is termed as cloud computing. Then we will be talking about shared responsibility models, cloud models, CapEx versus OpEx. What are the benefits of cloud? And we'll be also talking about the cloud service types. So let's jump over there. So when we talk about the cloud computing, right? So it says cloud computing is the delivery of computing services over the internet, which help us to enable the services faster. Innovation is there, flexibility is there of the resources, and economics of scale is there. Now, when we talk about the services, what services we are going to use over the internet, or what computing services we are going to use over the internet. So, services are basically categorized in three domains. So, we have compute, we have networking, we have storage. Either I'm using CPU or memory in any format, direct or indirect. I'm using network, direct or indirect format, and I'm using storage to store my data or the application data, operating system data, log data, anything, right? So we have ideally three kinds of tracks or three kinds of resources available here. And all the categories will be directly or indirectly associated with any of these three categories. When I say AI is part of compute because it is going to use huge RAM, huge memory, and it is going to get transmitted through networking. It is going to store some data. So all three are going to have the underlying environment to support the AI. Then there is a shared responsibility model. Now, what is the shared responsibility model? So any cloud provider will say that when you are using our services, you need to also take the ownership. We will not only take the ownership. Why we will not take the ownership? So it says we will only take the ownership what we are managing. You take the ownership what you are managing. When we talk about the on-premise environment, in on-premise environment, we manage the physical data center, we manage the physical network, we manage physical boxes, we manage the operating system, we manage the network operations or network control, we manage the applications, we manage the identity and directory infrastructure, we manage the accounts and identities, we manage the devices, we manage the information and data. Everything is managed by the customer who's or the organization who's using the services. For example, I'm setting up my company, then I'll be thinking whether I need to go on the cloud or I need to set up my on-premise environment. If I'm setting up my on-premise environment, I'll be allocating a space for the data center. I'll be allocating the proper cooling mechanism in that data center, proper electricity, power backup for the electricity, or rack spaces where my network switches, my routers, my firewalls, my servers are placed on the racks, on those racks. Apart from the networking connectivity, what is required as part of that communication. And I'll be hiring the resources to maintain that. I'll be procuring licenses to deploy on top of that. So a lot of components will be involved in that. Right. So that will be complete my control, 100% my control. I can use as I want to, and it will be completely organization's ownership, right? So here it says who will be the responsible person, who will be the what will be the customer managing, organization managing, what will the service provider manage, and what will be the shared, right? So when we talk about the different cloud models, we have IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. Now, what are these three things? So we have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So we'll understand all these three. So in the infrastructure as a service model, so if I'm buying any service, let's say I'm procuring a VM, a virtual machine from the Azure, right? So here we are talking about the shared responsibility model for Azure. We are not talking about any another cloud provider. Now, in the infrastructure as a service, Microsoft is going to manage this layer: physical host, physical network, and physical data center. From the layer of the operating system, it is organizations or customers' responsibility to manage everything, whether it is an operating system, network management, application, identities, devices, information, and data. Now, in these three categories will be always responsibility always retained by the customer. Here, responsibility transfers to the cloud provider. In all these three, if we see carefully, this three in all three models are retained by the Microsoft, whereas here these are retained by the customer. In any case, this will not go outside of the customer area, and this will not go outside of the Microsoft area or the service provider area. So we have these four categories where the responsibility varies. So here we saw that we need to be responsible for managing. Whereas in platform as a service, operating system layer is managed by Microsoft. In the software as a service also managed by Microsoft. The network control here in the SaaS is managed by Microsoft. Here it is shared. So some portion Microsoft will manage, some portion customer will manage. Again, here in the identity and applications, we have the same shared responsibility model. Some ownership will be by the Microsoft, some will be the ownership by the customer. Here, the applications are managed by the Microsoft, whereas identities are again being under the shared responsibility model. So hence we term it as a shared responsibility model. Some are only with the customers, some are only with the service provider, and some are shared as per the demand of the service, which falls under either of these three categories: infrastructure service, platform as a service, or software as a service. Now, when we jump to what
Santosh, so when in this SaaS, the identity and directory infrastructure, it is basically the users of the organization, right?
yeah,
Which the organization wants to manage, right?
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So now when we talk about the type of clouds, what we have. So basically we have three types of clouds.
Santosh, one more thing. So
Yeah.
the example of a SaaS is a Gmail, right? For example,
Mm,
Outlook and
mm,
Gmail. These are
mm,
examples of SaaS, right?
mm.
So in the identity and directory infrastructure, is organization how is it shared between between the
See,
Microsoft?
identity and directory infrastructure we are saying here. Infrastructure. Now
Okay,
infrastructure is
is Microsoft. Okay,
Microsoft's responsibility, whereas when you are creating a users, right, that is
yeah,
your responsibility, and to manage those users, it is completely your responsibility.
uh-huh, I see. Okay,
Understood?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about,
Some more examples of do you have some more examples of SaaS?
we will be talking, we'll be talking, don't worry. We'll be
Okay,
talking. When we are talking about SaaS, we'll be talking about that.
okay.
Right? So now when we talk about cloud models, right? Oh, sorry, types of clouds. When we talk about types of clouds, we have basically three types of cloud. We have a private cloud, we have a public cloud, and we have a hybrid cloud. Now, what are these three types of clouds? So when we say that it is a private cloud, right? So private cloud means that organizations have set up their on-premise data center. They have set up their on-premise data center. It is a private data center, right? It is completely on-prem, completely in their house. Now they are publishing the services on the cloud, so users sitting from any location can access those services. So organizations create a cloud environment in their own data center. Organization is only responsible for operating the services they provide, and it does not provide access to users outside the organization. So for example, if the public cloud is this is of, for example, Infosys, right? So only Infosys users will be able to access this cloud. Apart from Infosys user, no user cannot access. Even an Infosys partner organization needs to take access, or Infosys needs to grant access with federation services for their requirement. So that's an example of private cloud. When we talk about public cloud,
Santosh, can you repeat the private cloud again? So, but is it on the internet, or you say it is still on in their data center, but still cloud?
it is on the setup is in the data center only. Setup is, let's say, for example, it is in my Bangalore office, Bangalore. I have set up my own data center for my company, and my data center is in my control. It is an on-premise environment, the traditional environment. Okay. Now I want that my company users should be able to access the services. For example, if I'm having a file server placed in my data center, right? Now they should be able to access this file server, they should be able to access a database server, they should be able to access a web server. So the services which I am providing to the users inside the office, they should be available wherever they are. If they are on the go, they are traveling on a train, they are sitting in a cafeteria, they are traveling to client office, or they are working from home anywhere, though these services should be available to them. So I'll publish my services to the internet, so the users will be able to access via internet. But still, the services are hosted in my own physical environment.
So, when you say publish on the internet, what does that mean actually?
So that means we are providing access through the internet.
So that is through VPN, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that is an example of private cloud. So publishing on the internet means we are enabling to access over the internet. The
Okay. So
definition is the same. We are enabling access over the internet.
okay. So through the internet, actually going into the on-prem, right? Logging
Yeah,
into.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So now when we talk about the public cloud, so what is public cloud? So public cloud is owned by the cloud service providers or hosting providers like Azure, AWS, or GCP. So we have Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure. These are the three prominent public cloud providers, and there are more than 1,000 cloud service providers available throughout the globe. So these are the three prominent public cloud providers. So the services are owned by the CSPs, cloud service providers. So they provide resources and services to multiple organizations and users. So these services are multi-tenant environment. So multiple organizations can come and create their environment over there. And they are accessed via secure network connection, typically over the internet. So when we are accessing the Azure services, we can access through the UI on the port number 443. Again, it is a secure port, or through the CLI cloud shell also. So we'll be understanding both the scenarios when we are deep diving in that. Now comes the hybrid cloud. So hybrid cloud is a combination of public and private cloud. So I'm having my on-premise data center where I have set up everything. I have published my services over the internet, so users are accessing. Now my need is that I want to leverage my environment with the public cloud also. So some services I want to use which are available in the public cloud. For example, I want to use Azure Active Directory domain service, or I want to use AI services, or I want to use cognitive analytics, right? So I want to use these services. I am already having my environment set up. I don't want to provision anything here. So I can only provision the services related to the what I want to use, and I can integrate it with my private cloud, and users can access from again a single network my public as well as private services, my public and private data center services. So it combines public and private clouds to allow applications to run in the most appropriate location. So the best AI would run in the cloud instead of my on-prem environment. So I'm leveraging cloud to run the AI services in the cloud. But my physical servers can be provisioned here, or they can be VMs can be, or physical boxes can be provisioned here. Both are possible. I can connect my network and I can set up a hybrid environment also. So that is my public cloud. So when we talk about the cloud models, so public cloud, no capital expenditure to scale up. I don't need to invest upfront anything. Applications can be provisioned quickly and deprovisioned when not needed. And organizations only pay for what they are using. They are not paying for if I have provisioned a virtual machine, a VM, I'll be paying if I taken a VM for 10 days. I'll not be paying for a month. I'll be paying only for 10 days. So that is the benefit of using the public cloud. Private cloud hardware must be purchased for startup and maintenance. So upfront investment is needed. Organizations have complete control over resources and security. And organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. Whereas here, the service provider is responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. Then we have the hybrid cloud. So this provides the most flexibility. Why? Because organizations can determine where to run their applications, whether in the cloud or in an on-premise environment, and they can control security compliance or any legal requirements as per the country in demand. For example, in Europe, we have a GDPR compliance policy. Might that would not be applicable in India. So if I am having my customers in European region, I cannot host their data in my Indian territory region, which which will be a non-compliance. So I need to compulsory host their services in the Azure territory. Now I don't have an office in Azure, but my customers are based in Azure. So what I can do, I have my physical data center in Bangalore, so I can leverage the help of Azure Cloud, and I can provision the resources on the Azure, and that will be the data will be stored in the Azure region, and I'll be completely GDPR compliant. So that is the benefit of the hybrid cloud, right? So we have public cloud, we have private cloud, and we have a hybrid cloud, which is a combination of my public and private cloud. Now, when we talk about the expenditures, right, upfront investment. So we have two types of expenses, what we do, right? So first is the capital expenditure, which is termed as CapEx, right? So this is the upfront spending of money on the physical infrastructure. When I'm going to the Azure, I don't need to spend upfront. Where if I'm going for my physical data center, on-prem private cloud data center, I need to upfront invest in my data center space, data center backup, data center electricity backup, data center electricity, ACs, infrastructure, right? Coolants, physical rack space, physical cabling, physical power instruments, and the physical server boxes, physical firewalls, physical routers, physical switches. A lot of things are required. Then I need to invest in the licensing part also, right? And I need to hire an upfront manpower to do that stuff also. Whereas the Whereas in the cloud, I don't need to worry about this capital expenditure or the capex. Now, these costs from capex have a value that reduces over time. So when I'm investing in the capex infrastructure, so I'm let's say buying 20 servers today for my private data center. Now, this 20 servers cost is not going to get a write-off in a single year. It is going to be there for a span of 7 years, right? So the usage of 7 years, what I'm going to use of these 20 servers, I'm investing upfront for the 7 years. I'm investing upfront for the 7 years. So instead of doing this, I can go with the OPEX model, expenditure model, where I can spend on production services as needed with the pay-as-you-go model in the cloud, and I can get billed immediately every month. Now, that doesn't mean in cloud we don't have OpEx or CapEx. In most of the cases, we'll be having OpEx expenditure only in the cloud, whereas in our on-premise environment, we'll be having CapEx as well as OpEx. Why OpEx? The electricity bill, what I'll be paying is an OpEx monthly. The monthly salary I'll be paying will be OpEx. The monthly or the yearly license renewal I'll be doing, that will be OpEx. The uh, network usage or the office space I'll be using uh, for the data center, right? That will be OpEx. I need to pay the monthly rent or I need to pay the monthly maintenance. That will come or fall under the operational expenditure. Whereas my upfront cost, the investment cost will or the capitalization cost will fall under the capital expenditure, which is termed as my capex. Now, apart from that, when we talk about CapEx and OpEx, we have also a term called consumption-based model. So when we buy or provision services and Azure, which are based on the consumption, we only pay for what we use. So the service providers operate on a consumption-based model, which means that end users only pay for the resources what they are using. Right? Whatever they use and what they pay for. Right. So the better cost prediction, so we can predict the cost, what will be the monthly cost for me, prices for the individual resources and services why they are using, and billing is based on the actual usage. So if I jump to my, let's say Azure Portal, and here I'm having a cost management, right? So if I jump to cost management and I'll go to my billing and usage. Just a minute, yeah. Options have changed. No. Just a moment. Yeah, so now we can see here I am having this resources, let's say Azure resource groups or resources or services. So if I go to the resource group and you can see it is showing me two resource groups where it is showing both resource group what they have costed me, right? So here you can see it is saying reservations or support fees or service specific refunds are not included in this. What is included? Usage, marketplace offerings, and deleted resources, right? So if I expand this, right? Let's say I'll expand. Now you can see it is showing me a complete minute granular information for which specific resources I have used what. Right now in this my resource group, I had created three virtual machines. I have created three virtual machines, and each machine had a hard disk. For each machine, it is showing the separate cost. Why? Because I might have used less 15 minutes a single virtual machine, right? So you can see I had these four virtual machines, right? From this, I deleted the machine on the same day, right? So I was billed for 26 or 27 bucks. This I got billed for 44 bucks. This I got billed for $27. This I got billed for 25.36 bucks. It is also showing for the public IP address how much I have billed for the disk, right? For each component. Now this resources, right? So total I have been billed with 321.19 bucks. And I used or I created this resources for a couple of hours, around 4 to 5 hours, and I immediately deleted them. So for the 4 to 5 hours only I got billed. I even didn't got billed for a complete day also. Whereas when I go to my previous resource group, so here I'm having three resources. One, I'm having the virtual machine. So I'm getting billed for the virtual machine around 2177, right? For the disk, I have been billed for around 1000 bucks. And for the public IP address, I'm getting billed around 173 rupees, right? So I can see what is the bifurcation of my cost and how I'm getting billed. Now here it is showing me four components, right? So India Central, AU East, Intercontinental Asia. Now I might have changed this virtual machines sizing in different manner. Might be my virtual machine at the back end, depending upon the availability of the sizing, would have placed in another location. Or it is showing that it is in central India, East intercontinental region is coming as Asia, right? So I'll be getting a complete granular access, and I can have the insights also. I can view anonymous the insights. So if I can see the insights, so we have cost alerts. So a lot of options have changed here. A bit about cost alerts. Okay. So I don't have any alerts. I have not created any alerts, so I'll not be able to see. And we can have alerts. We can create budgets, and we can forecast our usage also. We can forecast our usage also. So let me try to change the scope. Or let me select a resource group. Oh, no worries. So let me see if I can see the okay, the options have changed. Nice. Right. So we can create alerts, we can create forecasts, we can see forecasts and how much usage is. So we'll be seeing this in the lab. Right. Let's come back to the slide. So we have the consumption-based model. Now when we talk about the cloud benefits, why we should use cloud, right? Why we should use cloud. So we have high availability. So whatever happens, Azure provides with me 99.99% SLA depending upon the service. So Azure says you will have a rarest case of downtime. You will have the rarest case of downtime. I have complete manageability, I have complete governance, I have predictability, I have security, I have scalability, I can immediately scale up the resources. I have elasticity. Elasticity means I can increase the resources when needed and I can shrink the resources also. That is the example of elasticity. And we have reliability. So these are the benefits of using the cloud services. Now, no doubt there will be the concerns, challenges, uh, drawbacks and advantages in any scenario. So depending upon any environment, overall, what is the benefit? If I am having some challenges and 80% I'm in benefit or 60% I'm in benefit compared to my on-prem environment, still overall I'm in plus only, right? So we need to think in an overall perception. And we talk about the service types, cloud service types. So we have basically three service models. So we have infrastructure as a service, we have a platform as a service, and we have a software as a service. Right. So now, apart from this, we have another services available as network as a service, right? Desktop as a service, security as a service, right? So we have all these services also available, but all fall either in these three categories only, right? So when we talk about the infrastructure as a model, right? So we pay only for the IT infrastructure by renting the servers or renting the virtual machines or renting the storage, renting the networks, renting the operating system from a cloud provider. Right. So when we talk about the infrastructure service, we are basically talking about the physical data center, right? Networking equipments and the servers and the storage equipments. So this ideally comes in under the infrastructure service. So basically when I'm provisioning a virtual machine, that virtual machine is my part of infrastructure service platform because it's my compute resource. It is storing my data, it is processing memory and CPU, right? So, and it is using underlying my network and network security, right? And it is placed somewhere on the physical machine, which is placed on the physical place inside the physical data center. So that is an example or a use case for our infrastructure service. When we talk about platform as a service, right? So under platform, we provides environment for building, testing, and deploying software applications without focusing on managing the underlying infrastructure. So the platform as a service, we get a complete platform, right? For example, DevOps platform, or when we say app functions or Azure app services, right? So what does it say? It's a platform. Now, when I say Office 365 Suite, it is a platform. It's not software as a service. It's a platform where I can have my Word, Excel, PowerPoint also. I can have my Outlook also, which is related to email. I can have Microsoft Teams also. I can have Stream also for streaming the recorded sessions. I have my OneDrive also for storing the documents. So a lot of things are bundled together in a single Office Suite, which is my platform as a service. But when I'm buying only Office Suite, I need only Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or I need only Outlook, or I only need OneDrive, which is an example of my software as a service. So when we're talking about platform as a service, we have a database management service, for example, a business analytics service, or development tool service. App service is part of the development tools. Let's say I want to launch an app where I don't want to take a headache of provisioning a virtual machine, installing the required coding application, requiring the installation of a database, maintaining those databases and applications, not even the code application, right? For example, PHP application or Java application or a Python application, upgrading that application regularly. I don't want to take the headaches. So what the cloud providers say, we will give you a platform. You select the platform, what you need. For example, you need a Windows machine or a Linux machine. You need a Python. What kind of database you need. We will provision everything under it for you, and we will manage those. You don't take the headache. Right? So that is an example of platform as a service. And when you talk about software as a service, right? The software as a service, users connect to any cloud-based apps over the internet, for example, Microsoft Office 365, email, and calendars. Now, Office 365 is a suite. When I say Office 365, here it is referring as an old example. New example, Microsoft 365 is considered as a platform as a service. But these they have separate components. They are built under suite that is a platform as a service where each separate component bought separately will be part of the software as a service. So any applications hosted in the cloud, right? For example, my Gmail service or my OneDrive service or my maybe YouTube service, right? Or any web application, right? Hosted in the cloud. So that is an example of software as a service. They are giving me a software. For example, we use Canva for design, or we use Adobe Illustrator in the cloud. That is an example of my software as a service. So when we compare all three together, right? So the cloud service comparison says infrastructure service, the most flexible cloud service, platform as a service, focus on application development, whereas software as a service, pay as you go pricing model. When we talk about infrastructure service, you configure and manage the hardware for your application. Platform managed by the cloud provider, and your software system user pay for the software they use on a subscription basis. So that is the difference between the infrastructure service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Right. So that ends up the module one of what we say AZ-900, and we will jump to module two. Is am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we'll jump to module two. In the module two, we are going to talk about the Azure architecture and the services what Azure is providing. Now, we will not be covering complete module two and module three because that will be covered in AZ-104 separately. Right? So when we talk about the Azure architecture component, we have regions, we have availability zones, we have subscriptions, we have resource groups. Right? We have all these components as part of the Azure architectural components. So when we say Azure account, so we have browser Azure account. So now previously Microsoft used to give a free student account and a free account which was part of the Azure subscription or student subscription. No doubt it was paid, it was included part of the course. Microsoft charges around 50K for a course and they include in that. Now Microsoft, starting with December 2024, has
Uh,
stopped Azure subscription.
Santosh,
That's
can you close this window where it shows recording and transcription?
calling out.
ये वाली विंडो आ रही है ना रिकॉर्डिंग एंड ट्रांसक्रिप्शन वाली बिकॉज दैट it interferes when you're writing.
Just a moment. So I've stopped the transcript. Good morning, Jagdish. Okay, now it is closed.
So it says transcription has stopped. Okay, what is transcription?
So I was so it will generate the transcript with the recording. So I
And
stopped it. Either hold on. Let me start the transcript. You share your screen once. You share your screen once.
I do it.
Yeah, you share your screen.
So what do you want me to do?
Share your screen.
I did.
No, it's not visible.
I clicked on share.
No, click on share, then a drop down will come. You need to select the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's appearing. Just a second. Yeah. So where is the transcript? Show me. Go to your Teams. You have shared a window. You need to share a screen. You need to share the complete screen. I requested to share the screen. Only Google Chrome is visible to me. You need to stop sharing and reshare it again. Complete screen instead of a window.
Okay, so I click on share.
There will be two options, window and screen. You need to share screen.
So I click, okay, choose what you want to share. I clicked on entire screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, where is this transcript? Yes, where is the transcript?
You're asking me
Yeah,
which transcript?
you were asking, saying that it is coming on the screen.
No, 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 no. So when you, I told you, it's okay. On this screen is showing recording and transcription, right? That
Mhm.
window. So I told you to close that. So on your screen, so that when you write, this actually interferes in between. That's why I wanted
So,
to close that.
go to the more option. There's a more option at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go to language and speech.
Okay.
Right. No. So, okay, do one thing. I'm sharing my screen and take the screenshot when the transcript is appearing and share in the chat.
Okay.
Share in the chat. In the Teams chat.
So you want me to take a screenshot?
Yeah, and share here in Teams chat only.
जा तुझे ना भाई
Yes, it is.
आज
Good
स्टार्ट कर
morning.
गुड मॉर्निंग आज स्टार्ट करियो छे
Ah,
Santosh, I sent you. So I when I take a screenshot, how do I send it to you?
there's a chat option in the Teams.
Okay.
So here you have the chat option. You can upload it from here. And go here, you have the chat option.
Okay, I go on my chat option.
Yeah, and send it. Or you can go to your this window, right? This window. you'll be able to see your meeting and you can paste it here also.
Which window is this?
This Teams window only, this Teams only. But this you will not be able to see if you are from a browser session.
Okay, I sent you on WhatsApp. You can look at it and then we figure this out
But
later.
my phone is 10 feet away. Just hold on. So where is the transcript window you are saying? That is the pop-up you are saying.
Yeah, that is that pop-up that you
So you
cannot
can
close.
close that pop-up. There is a cross button at the top. You can
Okay.
close that pop-up. It is just informative. You can close that information. Sorted.
Okay.
Okay. So now, as I was saying previously, till December, so starting with December 2024, Microsoft has stopped the subscription model available for Azure. Subscription in the sense a separate subscription for using the Azure services, which are available for 30 days. Right, so we have now two types of subscriptions only. Either we can use an Azure pay-as-you-go model or Azure free account, which is available for 30 days. Now, the Microsoft Sandbox is available through Microsoft Learn only. So you can use only the labs which are designed by Microsoft, and that is part of Microsoft Learn. So I'll be sharing this links as part of AZ-104 on next Saturday, and you can you cannot now create this, but you will be able to create an Azure free account. So we will be creating next to next Saturday. So today Saturday, next to next Saturday, right? So we'll be creating next Saturday the free account. So you guys can create free account and you can start using. So now in order to create a free account, you will require a credit card. So 2 rupee to 15 rupees will be deducted, 2 rupees to 15 rupees, and it will be credited back. It will be charged and it will be charged back, right? So, but a credit card will be compulsory for any of the Azure accounts. So let's go and start understanding about the Azure. So at present, we are not using Azure Learn Sandbox. We can activate the Azure Learn Sandbox, and where how you can activate the Azure Learn Sandbox. So you can navigate to Microsoft Learn. AZ-900 Microsoft Learn. Yeah, no, this is Microsoft. Right. So this I'll give in the chat box. This is just a theory. You can go through theory if you want. It's a reading material. I am sharing the chat box. And so here you can jump to the Azure Fundamentals. So where it describes the cloud concepts, and this is the module two, architecture and services. So if you go jump to this model, right? So here you can see we have the Azure physical infrastructure, Azure account. Get started with Azure account, right? Explore the Learn Sandbox. So you can explore this sandbox at your pace, and this is free, right? You don't need to pay anything. It will help you how the Azure sandbox or the Azure looks, right? So you can just start the puzzle, right? So once you click on start the puzzle, it was going to ask you, right? So use the arrow to rotate the object to face in the direction of the hand, right? So I need to face in the direction of the hand, right? So it's done. I'll click submit. Now I have the another thing. So, okay. Yes. Right. So now here you can see uh, we have the permission to use the sandbox. Now we can use the sandbox, right? So we can click us sandbox. We can click on the sandbox. And I'm already using a subscription, so it might not allow me. You can use your Outlook ID to make use of sandbox, right? And you can then use this Azure portal also in the sandbox environment. Right, so I have shared this link, right? This link, you can go through the theory module wise. There are three modules, right? Three modules. We completed this module. Now we are on this module, right? So let's jump to this module. Now, when we talk about the components of Azure architecture, so we have Azure regions, we have region pairs, we have sovereign regions, we have availability zones, we have Azure data centers, Azure resources, resource groups, subscriptions, management groups. And we are going to understand the hierarchy of the resource group, how they are structurized. So when we talk about a region, what is a region? So region is basically made of one or more data centers, right? So you can see we have three regions in India: West India, Central India, and South India. So my Central India is in Mumbai, South India is in Chennai, and probably West India is in the north. And now we have one more region maybe getting placed in a Hyderabad region. Right, so region is basically our area where a data center is set up of Microsoft. Now that data center can be multiple or can be one depending upon the region. Now that information is available separately from the Microsoft side. So Azure offers more global regions than any other cloud provider with 60 plus regions representing across 140 countries. Now here you can see we have available region as the dark blue color in this diagram, availability zones, which says that dark blue color. Inside that, we have a white option. So, for example, that is South and Asia as a availability zone. And we have the announced region. Announced region. So, this is the proposed region, which is announced, and it is going to get launched live soon. Now, apart from that, if I navigate to Azure regions, let's say I'll go back to my Chrome Azure regions. So we have list also and choose the right region for you. So we have a complete list, right? So this list keeps on updating. You can see this was updated on 16th April 2025. Today is 19th April. Right. So we have a lot of regions available here. Right. So we have PAT region, we have physical location, and we have geography. And this is the region. So for example, if I talk about India, right? So I have India where the central India location is there. PAT region is South India, and physical location is in Pune. Right. So if I scroll down for India, another India region, you can see I'm having India, South India region, and it is in Chennai, and the PAT region is in Central India. Right. So in the same manner, if I talk about Germany, so Germany North region is there, which is paired with Germany West Central, which is in Berlin, and we have West Central region, which is in Frankfurt. So this my Germany North is in Berlin, Germany West Central is in Frankfurt, and it is showing that it is paired with Germany North. Right.
So what
And
does
so,
paired mean? Paired
and
means
I'll talk about that. I'll come to that slide. Right. Don't worry. So now when I say Indonesia Central, so it is in Jakarta. My Israel Central, which is in Israel. Italy North, it is in Milan. Japan East, it is in Tokyo. Right? And that too where? Saitama. Japan West, it is in Osaka. Korea Central, it is in Seoul. Right? So we have complete physical location also. Right? So I can see this complete information. And I can decide in which region I need to place. Now, apart from that, how I can see this, right? So this is Microsoft data center. You can see this is a photo of Microsoft data center. And apart from that, when we scroll down here, we have the latest news for Azure data regions, right? So here some you will find some news for specific regions, right? And apart from that, we will have on globe to the present. Right, so you can see here, this is the globe, and we can see this is my North America. If I scroll down here, this is my European zone. If I scroll down, this is my India. This is my India, right? So here a lot of icons are given. What are these icons? So if I scroll down here, you can see this is my regions. This is my network pop, WAN links, right? I'm having WAN links. The wind speed, solar, mixed environment. So everything it is showing. So if I uncheck this and if I say only show me the region and only show me the WAN links, right? Now you can see. It is only showing me the WAN links and the regions which are available. Now this is my Indian location. This is my Himalayas, right? I can maximize it also, right? So you can see this is my South India, this is my Central India, this is my South and Asia, this is my Indonesia Central. If I scroll down here, right? So here you can see I'm having Germany West, West Europe, right? France Central, Switzerland North, Italy North, right? Poland Central, Norway, Sweden, right? And if I come to my North America, right? So Canada East, East US, East US 2, East North Central US, it's Central US. Now you can see here the regions are given based on the countries, but here in the name of the region there is not mentioned where is the physical location. We can see the physical location by going to that list, right? We can see now. Sorry, right. Yeah. So here in the physical list, I can see that in my East US, where it is located, right? So I am having East US and East US 2, right? So it is located in Virginia and this is also located in Virginia, right? Then I'm having Central US, right? Central US, which is located in Iowa, right? Maybe I'm having West US, West US 2, West US 3. West US is in California, West US 2 is in Washington, West US 3 is in Phoenix. Right. So I can see my different locations. UK South, which is in London, UK West, which is in Cardiff, right? West Central US, which is in Wyoming, West Europe, that is in Netherlands, right? So my region name is West Europe, but where it is located in Netherlands, right? So in the map, I cannot highlight or I cannot know which location it is. And all these are WAN links. Now, what are these WAN links? These are physical cables laid under the water. These WAN links are under the water. Now, this WAN links can be physical or can be wireless, right? Now, for example, this WAN links from here to here or from here to here can be physical or can be wired. But where there is sea area, that is completely under the water. That is completely under the water. That cannot be using the wireless signals that will be completely physically wired. And in most cases, it will be wired cables, which are fiber cables, which are laid under the water. Right, so this is how we can go through it. We can filter the regions also by compliance or what how we need. We can view the mode we need map, table, or globe. So at present, I am viewing the globe. If I need to view the map, I can select the map. You can see this is the map. I can see the map, how my regions are placed, right? So this is, and if I go to the legend, I can see here I have regions. I can select my geographies also. So you can see now I'm having my geographies, right? Italy, Australia, Germany, Netherlands will come here now. Maybe somewhere. Right? So these are my geographies, how it is placed. So this is my geography India, this is my geography Africa. So in which geographical zone I'm having. Apart from that, I can even when I'm selecting region, I can select the network POEP also, right? And I can see the wind flow also, right? So you can see I can see the wind flow also. I can see the mixed environment also where it is. I can see the solar environment also, right? So completely how the structure is going, I can see of the Azure regions.
So what does it mean? Wind, solar, what does that actually mean?
That is more of technical related to climate. So any disruptions can be there in the future or now, right? We can see or forecast accordingly as per the climate. How the climate is structured over there, so it is showing that.
Okay.
Right. So now, what is the benefit of regions? So regions are made up of one or more data centers in close proximity. So what happens when there is a single data center? Let's say I cover Pune region, which is my technically central India. Now, this Pune region can have a single data center or multiple data centers. But my region is single, which is in the location Pune, and the name is Central India. The name is Central India. Now, it has one or more data centers. Now, these data centers are termed as availability zones. Availability zone 1, availability zone 2, availability zone 3, like this. Right. So now what are availability zones? I'll come on the next slide. So what is the benefit of a region? It provides flexibility and place scale to reduce customer latency. So customer can decide where is their maximum audiences who is accessing these services, and they can place their data center services in that specific region. As I took the example, if I had my users from the European territory, I'll better keep in European territory. Now, where in Europe? So let's say my mostly users are from Germany. I'll better to keep in Germany. If I'm more users are from my Netherlands, I'll keep in Netherlands. If my more users are from London, I'll keep in London. Right. So depending upon the location, what we decide, we can place our data in that specific region. So it preserves the data residency with a comprehensive compliance offering. Now, when we have availability zones, when we talk about availability zones, so as I have taken an example of Azure region, Central India, which is in Pune. Right, so it can have multiple availability zones. Now, these availability zones will be connected with each other. It will be connected with each other. So they provide protection against downtime due to data center failure. For example, what if this data center fails? So still in this region is up, this region is not down. If my one data center is failing in that region, still my if there is only one data center, then complete region will be down, which is again the question on Microsoft, right? So because most of the customers' data will be in that specific region only. Now, when we are selecting a region, we have the option to select the availability zones also, where I want to place my data. Now, these are randomized data centers, right? So for it is not necessary where if I am creating or spinning up my Azure virtual machine, I'm spinning up my Azure virtual machine, I'm placing in AZ zone one, availability zone one. So in my account, maybe I'm selecting Central India availability zone one. Let's say this is actually data center one, this is data center two, and this is data center three. Right. So for me, it is showing availability zone one, which is actually data center one. Maybe for Jagdish, Jagdish is also creating a VM in Central India, and he's selecting Azure AZ one, availability zone one. But for Jagdish, the availability zone one, the name is this, but in the background, maybe it can be data center three. For Vandana, it can be data center two. So accordingly, the regions will be showing Central India, but every user will not be conveyed that the data center one is for you availability zone one or data center three is for you availability zone one. It will be randomized for each user. In the background, Azure will take care where to place in which data center. But users will know only this name. Right? So they are physical separate data center within the same region. Each data center is equipped with independent power, independent cooling, and independent networking, and they are connected with each other using a private fiber optic network. They are connected using the private fiber optic network.
So Santosh, how do we know that a region has availability zones or not? Is there a table, or when we actually create a
Yeah,
resource, then only we
no,
will know?
we have a table for that. So you can find all the information on internet. So when you say new regions, right? Right, so I'm selecting Azure regions with availability zone support. And apart from that, you can see here we will be having, okay. Now here is the complete support, right? So complete list, availability zone support is there or not. It, here we don't have availability zone, here we don't have, here we have, here we have, here we have. Right, so you can see check mark is given. Now it is not necessary. Maybe in some regions you will have only two availability zones. You will have three availability zones. Maximum three would be there. Either no availability zone or either one. Sorry, either two or either three. Right? There will be like that availability zone. So you can go to the CLI also and you can fetch the information. Right? So here you can find the information of the availability zones. And when you are creating, you will have the option whether there are two availability zones or three availability zones. And also we can find the list of, right? Right? So we have Azure products by region also and product availability that is by region. So we have a table for that in which region which services are available. Now it is not necessary all services will be available in each region. So before deciding what where to configure, you can decide, you can select your criteria where we going to place the data. Let's say I want to place the data, for example, in my Indian location. Right now you can see in India we have Central India, we have South India, and we have West India. Now you can see the API management services are available everywhere. But when I talk about a app service environment, it is available everywhere. App service premium V3 is available in only Central India. Now you can see mostly services are available in Central India, but in West India and South India, there is a service deficiency. Right. So for example, when I say my fluid relay service, which is available only in Central India. It is not available in West India and South India. Right. So when I say my service related to Redis cache, right? So Redis Enterprise or Enterprise Flash, both are not available in South India and West India. They are available only in Central India. Right. So which services will be available in which region before spinning up the resources. Before understanding your requirement, you should never select a region. You should understand your requirement, what services you need. Then you should decide in which data center you need to, or which region you need to place, or which geography you need to place. First, you need to decide the geography. After deciding the geography, you should decide a region. That is the best practice. So first, the list of services you will be using for the next 5 years, then the geography, example India, then the region. If you say I'll place in South India, I want to place in Chennai, I'm based out in Chennai. Now, but in Chennai, some 30% services are not available. Then what's the point in placing the regions and services in Chennai? I can place in Central India. But now, if I know that my those 30% services might have rare case implications on the services which I'm placing in Chennai, in South India. So I can place my 70% services in Chennai, South India, and 30% services in Central India, and I can have a connectivity between them. So that also I can do. And here we can see the blue icon. That blue icon says they are in public preview. Yes.
So
What was
Santosh,
it?
so we decide this based on the, because you said geography is decided based on your users, right?
Sorry, geography is decided based on.
Your users, like which region do you select, where your users are, then you select according to that the
And
region you select.
that's what I'm saying. So first we need to decide the list of services, then we need to decide the geography where to place. And in that geography, whether we have the availability of the services or not in that region, then we need to decide that. If you
So,
don't have, if you are placing a service, if you have decided a geography first, then you are deciding the region, right? Then you are deciding the service, and then you know that in that region that service is not available. Oh, then you decided another region, again that is in the same geography. Again, that service is not available in that region itself, in that geography itself. Then what you will do?
so that means top priority should be given to the service, right?
Obviously, yeah. So until unless I don't know what service I am going to use, how will I decide my geography or region? Right? Let's say I want to use a VM, right? Which is I want to create 26 VMs, 13 VMs in a single cluster, and another 13 VMs in a single cluster. Now this will be used by my Australian users. This will be used by my European users. Right? Now there is no point keeping any of the VMs in Indian region, right? So first I decide what service I need to do use. Then I'll decide the territory. Now the territory or the region or the geography is nearer or is should be the nearest location where my most of the users. Now, it does not necessarily mean all users will be near to the data center, but most of the users should be nearest to the data center. So I'll prefer to host these 13 VMs in Australia and these 13 VMs in Europe. Now, where in Europe, right? I have decided the geography Europe, or maybe I have decided the geography Spain. Now, where in Spain? Or where in Germany? Maybe it can be Frankfurt or it can be another location or where in London. Sorry, where in United Kingdom? In United Kingdom, I'm having London, I'm having another location, right? Where should I place it? Right, in region also. So in geography, under that geography also I'm having two regions. Now, if what if I selected London and that service is not available in London? Right. So if I navigate over there, or if this was there, right? So if I see my UK South, which is in London, and UK West, which is in Cardiff, what if my Cardiff is the nearest location? But in my Cardiff, there is no availability zone, and I need the availability zone feature. So I need to compulsory use the London location only. In the same geography, I'm using London region.
And if the service is not available in the London region,
Then I need to select any another, I'll select Germany. I have a lot of locations available.
even though if your users are actually in Cardiff, but you don't have a service, and but you need availability zone also, so you move to Germany, even though the users are far away.
Yeah,
So
that's what
that
I'm
is
saying.
the
Nearest location, nearest location. I would not go to Southeast Asia, right? Or I would not go to Texas. I
yeah,
would
yeah,
select the nearest location, which is the most nearest location where all services are available and my requirement is fulfilled.
is fulfilled. Yeah,
Correct?
yeah.
So let's jump again. Right. So when we talk about availability zones, they provide protection against downtime due to the data center failure. So they are physically separate data center within the same region, and each data center is equipped with separate cooling, power, and networking, and connected through private fiber cables. Now, in each data center, we have a concept of region pair. Now, what is that region pair? So when we talk about region pair, right? So a region pair is generally a region where it is paired with another region, right? So at least 300 miles of separation between region pairs, right? So 300 miles, so approx how many kilometers? Yes, 300 miles is equal to how many kilometers? Right? So let's consider miles, at approximately 350 kilometers. Right, approximately 350 kilometers you are separated. So if by chance that region goes down also, your services will be available through another region. Now, why does the Microsoft makes assurance of 99.99% availability? So your services are automatically replicated, or your some services are automatically replicated to the paired region. If that region goes down, still your some services would be available from that data center. Now, prioritize region recovery in the event of outage, right? So the reason of having a paired region is that if there is an event of region outage, you have the recovery of the services on prioritized region. Now, updates are rolled out sequentially to minimize the downtime. So, what happens when there is an update on this data center? The services will be switched over to this data center because of any downtimes running of the underlying physical hardware, right? Let's say there is a requirement to update the or change the servers. There are 2,000 servers in that data center in the central India region, in Pune region. Now, among those 2000 servers, there is a requirement of replacement of 2000 from 2000 physical boxes. 200 physical boxes should be replaced because they are end of support. Now, in order to replace 200 physical servers, it is going to take a lot of time, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months, right? Depending upon the plan of action. Now, during that period, if any downtime is there, what will happen to your services? So your services will be running from the pad region when there's a downtime. That is the reason why we have a pad region. Now, apart from that, we have
And
some.
does Microsoft actually tell that they're using? I mean, they have actually switched over. They
No,
don't.
no.
So no, okay, but because if some services they had on one region, but because it says automatic replication for some services. Suppose we were in North Central US, right? I had there, and then they are doing some maintenance, and they switched over to the South Central, the paired region. But the service that I had on the North Central, they they do not have it in South Central. In that case, then they actually tell us, right? Tell the
They,
client.
they see generally when there's a bad region, they will make sure when there is a downtime, that is an availability zone and they will manage your services. You don't need to worry about that. And if there is going to be a planned outage, they will inform you also using mail or maybe the notification in the portal.
Mhm. Yeah.
And apart from that, it is not only the region out, it doesn't happen like this. There are a lot of underlying environments where we have a fault domain and update domain. So that concept is also taken care at the data center level. If any update goes or any migration goes, so at the data center level, it is a sequential process. So during that time, your services are moved in that data center only to another physical boxes without informing you. So because your Microsoft is not liable to place on a fixed physical service your services, right? So your services will be moved to another physical box, and that physical box will be updated or rolled out for a new box.
Okay.
That is data center concept. We will not deep dive in, just we are understanding in regards to the Azure.
Okay.
Then we have sovereign regions, which are specifically designed for US government agencies. So this meets the security and compliance needs of US federal agencies like state and local governments and their solution providers. So they have separate instances of Azure. They are physically isolated from non-US government deployments, and they are accessible only to screened authorized person only. They are not accessible by anyone, which are termed as Azure sovereign regions. Now, then we have Azure China also in the Azure sovereign region, which is China's first foreign public cloud service provider and compliant with government regulations. So they have physically separated instances of cloud services operated by a 21 via net. All data stays within China to ensure compliance. Now we have already gone through the globe of Azure infrastructure. Now, when we talk about Azure resources, right? So we have some resources like storage, virtual machines, networks that are available to build cloud solutions. Right? So we have virtual machines, we have storage accounts where you create your storages, we have databases, we have functions, app services, virtual networks. So this is an example of a resource. Now, resource is a service which you are going to use. Azure virtual machine is a service which you are going to use. It's a resource. Now, as part of that resource, virtual machine creation, might you have four resources created separately, like your public IP address, network interface card, then your network security group, your hard disk storage, OS disk, right? So these all components are created as part of the virtual machine creation process. Right. So when I'm creating a VM or I'm using a virtual machine service, I'm spinning up a VM. With that VM, I might end up with multiple resource creation because as part of the creation process, I am inputting that information. I cannot have a virtual machine without an NIC card, without a public IP address, or maybe without an operating system hard disk, right? So these parameters are required for a virtual machine. So hence, a separate resources is created as part of the another resource creation process. Right now, so this is summed up as a resource. Now, when we talk about resource group, so what is a resource group? So it is basically like a container, like a container. So for example, I can have a resource group where I'm creating a web plus database, virtual machine and storage in a single resource group, or I'm creating a separate resource group for database servers and web servers, a separate resource group for virtual machines, a separate resource group for storage accounts, etc. And all can be in the same region, that all. So it is a resource group is like a container to manage and aggregate resources in a single unit. It's like a folder. The resources can exist in only one resource group. You cannot have in multiple resource group. So for example, if I am having a file, that file can be in that folder only. I cannot have that file at a time in multiple folders. Either I need to copy and paste that file over there, right? So I need to create a replica of that file. So I can create a replica of that virtual machine and I can place in that another resource group, right? But apparently a single resource will be landing in a single resource group. So resources can exist in different regions, though I am creating a single resource group, but my web servers are, let's say, for example, in South India. My database servers are in Central India. I can have this kind of environment. So resources can be moved to different resource group and applications can utilize multiple resource group. So if I'm creating an application or let's say I'm using this virtual machine, I need access to this web server also, to this database server also, the storage account also. So I can have an application which can consume resources from multiple resource groups also. Then we have a Azure subscription concept called Azure subscription. We can have multiple Azure subscriptions in a single Azure account. So I can have a single Azure account where I can have multiple subscriptions. Right. So an Azure subscription provides you with authenticated and authorized access to the Azure accounts. So we have a billing boundary. So generate separate billing reports and invoices for each subscription. So each subscription will have a separate bill generated. Each Azure subscription will have a separate bill generated. Now we can manage this Azure subscription or using the access control boundary, which can be managed and controlled the excess of resources that users can provision within a specific subscription. So in a specific subscription, which user can provision what kind of resources that I can configure using as access control or RBAC, we say role-based access control, right? So access control or role-based access control, we can do that. Then apart from the subscription, we have a management group, right? So what is a management group? So management group can include multiple Azure subscriptions. So a single management group can have multiple Azure subscriptions and each subscription can have multiple resource groups and each resource group can have multiple resources. So you can see in this resource group, I'm having multiple resources and this subscription, I'm having multiple resource groups, right? So multiple resources in a single resource group, multiple resource groups in a single subscription and multiple subscriptions in a single Azure account. I can have in this manner. Now, generally subscriptions inherit conditions applied to the management group. So whatever conditions you have applied, those will be inherited to your subscriptions and same will be inherited by resource groups. Now, 10,000 management groups can be supported in a single directory. Single directory means your single tenant. Now, what is that single tenant? Single tenant means your single account created as part of your Azure subscription. Right, so 10,000 management groups you can create, and each management group can have separate subscriptions. So, a management group we can support up to 6 level of depths. We can have 6 level of depths available, right? So, I can have a resource, right? a management group. In that, I can create another group and I can have subscription assigned to that, resource groups, then resources, etc. Six level of depths can be there. Or I can have one management group here and another management groups which are part of this group. And this each group is having separate subscription. This is having separate subscriptions. So like this, I can go till six level of depth. So this is my last level of depth. This is one, this is two, three, four. So I can go more to depths above. Right. So this we are going to see the lab as part of
So,
1G4.
so it is not six levels of only management, it is total, right? That means we could go only one more level of management group
More to.
or two. So the everything included, because resources is the last, right?
Yeah.
So from resources up to management, it should all inclusive is six.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just the management.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so creating a virtual machine will see in the lab of AZ-104, right? So now we'll understand the computer networking, right? So we have compute services where we have virtual machines, app services, container, Kubernetes, Azure Virtual Desktop. Now we are not going to see each and every service. This is just a highlight what is part of compute service. Just a hypothetical example is given what is included in compute service. Then when we talk about Azure VMs, so they are software emulations of physical computers, which includes our memory, processor, storage, networking, and they are offered as a part of IaaS offering. Why? Because they provide total control and customization. Then we have virtual machine skill sets. Again, we'll understand all these concepts in the AZ-104, right? So I'll not jump into that. Azure Virtual Desktop is a solution from Microsoft, which helps us with a media solution. So we can give cloud-based desktops to the user desktop as a service. So again, container services, Kubernetes services will understand as part of the AZ-104. So this all I'm skipping up because we'll be going through this labs in depth. Just a moment. My PowerPoint got closed. Let's see what is remaining in this step. Okay, we'll go through 1 minute of this. Right. So we have Azure Active Directory, which is a Microsoft Azure's cloud-based identity. We are going to understand this in the role-based access chapter, right? And we'll see the difference between Azure Active Directory domain services also during that understanding. Now here we have a concept called authentication and authorization. Right, so what is authentication? So authentication is generally the identifies that person or service seeking access to resource is genuine or not. Right, it requires legitimate access credentials. So basis for creating secure identity and access control principles. So whether the user who's logging to the Azure is genuine or not, right? They need to prove using the MFA and the credential username and password. Then what is authorization? The authorization determines an authenticated person's or service level of access. Persons or services level of access means which data they can access and what they can do with that service or data. For example, if I have given a user access or authorization access on a virtual machine, they can only power on the virtual machine. They cannot change the configuration, they cannot shut down the virtual machine, right? So that is an authorization. But before authorization, they are logging to the portal. So whether they are genuine or not, they are legitimate or not, that is authentication. Once they are successfully authenticated, then it comes whether they have access to the virtual machine or not. That is part of authorization. If they have access, what kind of access they have, they can do. So that is part of authorization. Then we have multi-factor authentication. So what is multi-factor authentication? So it provides additional security for identities by requiring at least two or more elements for full authentication. So someone you know, right? Something you possess and something you are, right? So these are the three parameters of your multi-factor authentication works. So something you know, for example, password, something you possess, for example, MFA device, right? And something you are, that you are proving with the OTP that you are, or with the authentication app, you are proving it at. Right? Then we have external identities, B2B identities for collaboration. So with Azure AD, we can invite or self-service sign up for external partners, vendors, suppliers, and other collaborators with their external identities also, right, to our Azure account. So we can ask, let's say we have an CA auditor company who are using G Suite. Their identities are on G Suite. We can integrate with our Azure AD and they can log in with their identities on our Azure AD or Azure Portal and access the resources, what access we have granted them access to. So that is a B2B collaboration service. Then we have B2B collaboration, B2C. So B2C means we have users, we have make the publication of the apps, and users can sign up with B2C apps, like they can sign up with Google, they can sign up with uh, Facebook, they can sign up with Azure identity or maybe another OAuth mechanism, etc. Now, Microsoft is gradually trying to close B2C identities. They have already announced it, and maybe in future this will not be available. Then we have conditional access. So what is conditional access? So it is used by Azure Active Directory to bring signals together to make decisions and enforce organization policy. So basically, it is to bring signals. What kind of signals? Users, group or location, what device user is coming from, what is the real-time risk, which application they are coming, etc. These are signals. Now, how signals are validated? So are validated through a decision, verify every access attempt. So whether to allow access, require multi-factor authentication, or block access. Accordingly, their decision is taken by the Azure, and finally they would be having access to the data or not. It depends upon what environment they are using and what signals they have triggered from. Then we have RBAC. So RBAC we'll study. I'll skip this slide. Now we have zero trust. So what is zero trust? So nowadays attacks are very frequent in the modern era. We are always under the surveillance of an attack, right? Many malicious users, malicious organizations are trying to hack your environment, right? So when we talk about in the classic approach, we used to restrict everything using a firewall or antivirus. Now today is not like that. So we will only grant you access, right? So protect access anywhere with central policy. So today we try to enforce central policies by making the use of IAM, identity and access management. So authentication, authorization, and access. Right? Triple A. We combine with identity and access management and we apply the conditional access policies together to your environment, a central policy, which when the user logs in, whether they have permission to access this resource or not, this resource or not, this resource or not, is defined in all these policies. Once the policy goes through, then only they will get either denied or given the access. Right? So it helps us to protect. Yes.
Since I didn't understand this, the IAM and AAA. I didn't understand the zero trust.
So
Can you?
see, this is just a theory. Theory. I cannot explain in depth what is identity and access management. This IAM will learn as part of Azure AD, and triple is authentication and authorization we have seen. And access. Access means what type of access we are giving using the conditional access policy, as we saw on the previous page. So identity and access management is your creating the identities, providing them access and managing them. That is your IAM, which is your Azure AD. So you are enforcing central policies with your IAM on the user so that they can access only the resources what they have granted access. Previously, we used to give access to the storage account and we need to give permissions. Right? Now we are not giving permission on individual resources and as we used to do in the legacy format. Instead, we are applying a central policy at the user level, machine level itself, and according to that policy, whether they have the access to the resource or not, and if they have what kind of access they have, accordingly they will be granted access. So that is to ensure that we are protecting our assets from zero trust anywhere and with the central policy. Then we have a concept of in-depth approach, right? So a layered approach to securing computer systems, which provides multiple level of protection and attacks against one layer are isolated from subsequent layers. So at each layer will be defining the security at each layer. Right, so first we have the physical security, whether the user is allowed in our premises or not. Second, identity and access management. Third, we will ask user to land in the parameter network, DMZ network. Then the user will land where once it is permitted, it will join the LAN. Once it is inside the LAN, then it will be validated that the user has access to the compute resource or not. If they have, yes, then they will be landed to the application. If they have access to the application, they will be granted or they will be denied. If they have access to the application, they can then their access for the data validation will happen. What kind of access they have on the data of that application. So this is the defense in depth concept which we generally try to apply in most of the enterprise organizations. Then we have the Defender with the cloud. So Microsoft Defender is a cloud monitoring service which help us to protect from threat protection across Azure and your on-premise data center. Now, this is a paid service, it is not a free service. So it provides security recommendations, it detects and blocks malware, and it analyzes and identifies potential attack, if any, are going to happen. And it also provides just-in-time access controls for ports. Right? So we have Azure subscriptions, AWS accounts, right? GCP projects. You can see we can have Microsoft Defender for cloud, and we can control a lot of things using this Defender for the cloud, right? So this is not part of our environment, our training. It is part of our security training, right? So that is for module two. Right? That is for module two. So what we'll do, I hope my screen got unshared, right? Let me share it again because I am having a power cut. Correct. So what we'll do, we will park the session here for today, right? And we'll resume the session on next Saturday. We'll go through a glimpse of module three. We will have a glimpse of module three on Saturday, next Saturday, and we will start with the labs, right? So as part of this module, Right. So here we have a glimpse of what we are going to cover here. The cost management, governance and compliance, blueprints, policies and resource logs. So that will be already covered as part of the AZ-104 resource logs, policies, right? Cost management also will cover, monitoring tool will cover. So this is theory. Theory we are already going to cover with the some overview of labs and the Azure. And we'll also talk about CLI, PowerShell, and Azure Portal. And also we will be talking about Azure Arc and ARM and the AZ-104. So this portion will be covered as part of the AZ-104. Just we'll understand the governance and compliance slides on next Saturday, and then we'll jump to AZ-104 theory and lab. So from next Saturday, we'll be starting the labs. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So recording will be shared by Tuesday on the WhatsApp group. Right, you will guys get the recording. So it will be uploaded by tomorrow UD and it will be shared by Tuesday.
So it will be shared by Tuesday, you said?